We have here Bruno Jolly, who's the head of Gourmet in Belgium. We have Casper Herler, who is a partner in Borenius law firm in Finland. We have Amanda Rice, who we have already all met and heard from the BBC, and Rachid Bensahnoune from L'Oréal, who is the vice president there, working on diversity. So let's start with Bruno, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm General Manager for Alguma Belgium. We are a company specialized in providing services to the rail industry. We are an international company. We have activities predominantly in the UK, Ireland, Belgium, France, the Netherlands, Germany, and we also have, through joint ventures, activities in Scandinavian countries, Norway and Finland. We undertook the journey to diversity back in 2007, and we were awarded in 2012 the diversity label. I think it's important for you to understand that our approach to diversity was quite special in the sense that our businesses knew a very sudden growth back in the year 2000, and from a company culture that was predominantly Dutch speaking and Belgian, our population changed dramatically in the year 2000, and then we basically had a culture change and a language change within the company. I understand you've been told this morning about the particularities of Belgium. We have 3 national languages in Brussels, where I'm based. We work with Dutch and we work with French, and you can imagine if your population includes about 53% of non-EU workers, it creates even more challenges. So we were basically confronted with problems. We were encountering behavioral issues. We were having groups resisting to changes, not accepting other people, language, culture, and that was quite challenging. So our approach to diversity was to make sure that we were implementing corrective actions and finding solutions to our problems, which were quite acute. So what we did, our approach was to do a pre-plan to work with the diversity organizations of the Brussels region, to work with a diversity consultant, to identify precisely what the problems were. I think it was very important to make sure that we called on the services of a diversity consultant, because that person was specialized in diversity, was also neutral to the company. And what we did is we conducted a series of panel interviews and individual interviews, which were confidential, of course, so that we could meet our staff, we could talk to management and basically identify what the problem were and what were people expectations. So this basically gave us a summary of actions to take, and then that formed the structure of our diversity plan. Our main focus was basically on people training and people development. I think this is a key thing. I think one sentence I like to refer very often is that the only thing which is consistent is change. And I think, your business today will not be the same within a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time. So, you really have to adjust. And we believed at the time that it was, and I think this is also something very important, you have to invest in people. So one of the key actions we took was to train people. So we put in place a training on diversity on the work field so that people could understand that they have to work with people that have different culture, different language, different age, different sexual orientation, and that was very useful. I think we talked a lot about leadership this morning, but I think it's also important that it's not only a matter of leadership, it's also a matter of having your workforce understand the diversity approach and to make sure that your staff is part of it. And I think one of the key things we did was also to create a diversity work group that worked together with management to sort of define action, to benchmark companies, and to network with other business. I'm not going to monopolize the attention. I know you got other speakers. And I think this is the good thing about the event today. I think it's very important that even though Estonia may be different, I think we have an opportunity to network, and I think it's very important in this process on diversity to connect and basically learn from each other. I think it's very important to share on success and best practices. We've gone the way to the diversity label, and I think there's a lot we can share and we can share with you so that you sort of go with more confidence into that process.
Thank you very much. It is, I can just say as a background that how we came to ask Bruno to come, that we actually visited Rail Gourmet in Brussels, and then we actually saw, the people there, and we saw the office there, and it was something that was I think has been the most useful perhaps for Estonian companies who are not that big. And Rail Gourmet has about 100 employees.
120.
120 employees. So it's not a huge company, and it has achieved actual benefits from the diversity charter and from the diversity action plans.
Thank you.
Right. So thank you. Now next we have Casper Herler from Borenius. Which is a law firm in Finland, but I also believe that it belongs to a network that there's also an office in Estonia. I myself am, from my background and training, I'm also a lawyer, and I have also worked in a law firm once, so I know the background, I know how the atmosphere is there, and in Estonian context, of course. And I think that the diversity in a law firm is a tricky thing. And it has the special kinds of challenges. So perhaps you will enlighten us a little bit your perspectives on this topic.
Yes, thank you. I think probably the challenges you're referring to is that it's a quite homogeneous culture in the sense that typically, traditionally, all employees have been quite similar in background. Borenius in Finland has about 180 employees, about 100 lawyers. And we are one of the largest business law firms on the Finnish market. And for instance, comparing our case with some of the ones presented here, we're quite strictly business to business oriented law firm. So we don't face so much the kind of the B2C type of accessibility issues because of the business we're working in. We're providing high quality advice to business clients typically. So our diversity journey has been more about how our human resources, our status of and as an employer and how we treat our employees and our journey has pretty much started about gender issues. I mean, we had an experience a couple of years ago where we saw statistics that we were losing a lot of female talent during the years where our female workers leave for maternity leave, and when they come back, they just stay for a while, and then they seek jobs where they imagine they can receive a better work-life balance compared to our firm, and losing talent along the way has generated a structure where we don't have that many female partners. The more senior the staff are, the less there's women. And I mean, you can choose two strategies. Either you can introduce quotas to improve, but that hasn't really been our way. Instead, we've taken the decision to apply enabling strategies. We're trying to make it possible to do a career in our organization and have a family, but it's not only about gender issues. It can be about people who have parents that need special attention, or about having a challenging hobby that you want to combine with work life. So it's been a much broader perspective. This is kind of the starting point for our work, and now we've also been starting to focus on other diversity issues, but that's sort of been the starting point. And if you have a value base that you accept, that you want to look at gender issues, I think it's a good starting point to look at other diversity issues as well. And we see CSR changing very rapidly in the Finnish environment, much more focus on that, and there's estimates on that there will be a significant increase of cultural diversity in the Helsinki metropolitan region within 20 years. So we don't have we don't encounter that much diversity recruitment issues at the moment, but we want to be the leading, kind of the best place to work within the legal industry in Finland. That's our strategical sort of goal, and we want to be prepared for the future when there starts to be more workforce, more legal, sort of legal professionals with a cultural diversified background. What we've done so far is that we've adopted a new CSR program which takes into account this, and we've launched a thing which is actually a registered trademark, being within the law industry, called the Crowded Years Initiative, which is funded partly by the State Technology Fund, where we are working on these various enabling strategies. We kind of typically the program is running now, but what we've come up with is those small things which makes work-life balance easier. And this is kind of a state-funded program, so all the results will be common domain, so we will publish everything and make it available for other professional industries and businesses. We have introduced a diversity trainee program where we're trying to attract school 7th to 9th graders with a cultural diversified background, because what we see is that there's a community of youngsters who necessarily don't have a touch to kind of I don't know if it's a good word to say, but kind of white collar jobs. I mean, if you don't have that in your close surroundings, you necessarily don't know about the opportunities. So we were trying to enable. We don't necessarily want to recruit these people as lawyers, but we want to make them aware of that there's also this kind of jobs. And then we've started recruiting with diversified principles to our catering functions. We have a traineeship where because that's jobs where you don't necessarily need Finnish. So we've recruited people with a culturally diversified background to learn Finnish at our workplace, because it's slightly more difficult to recruit lawyers in Finland who don't know Finnish because of the industry. You need to command fluent Finnish in order to, or sort of, that's at least the mainstream. We're looking at opportunities whether it could be possible to work also find functions where somebody could work also not commanding fluent Finnish. So that is pretty much where we are now.
Very good. Thank you. We'll hopefully hear more from you. Now, Amanda, can you tell me, we already heard a lot about the BBC and what it's doing in terms of diversity, but what about the journey? If you look at it from a point of view of diversity as a journey, because we know that we cannot have there's no on and off switch, that there is diversity and there is no diversity, but it's a journey. So where do you see the BBC going in the future? What are the things that you think that need to be done in the BBC at the BBC that you think will be the things that you need to move towards?
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Diversity definitely is a journey, and I guess for me, when my job and my team's job is not needed at the BBC anymore, that's when we'll begin to feel that we're sort of really getting there. It's been a journey for us for quite some time, with different, as I think I said earlier, with a different focus on different areas of diversity. So starting off very much looking at gender diversity and doing a lot of work around that area, not really thinking so much about other areas of diversity, and then as time moved on, beginning to think more about ethnic diversity, more about disability, more recently about sexual orientation, and a whole host of other areas. And I think in terms of where we are now and the things that perhaps don't keep me awake at night, but I certainly think these are the big challenges. We still, as in common with many other organisations, have a challenge around senior manager diversity, still with gender, in fact. As I think I said this morning, our senior managers is about 37%. That's a lot more than many organisations, but it's not 50%, and it should be 50%. Certainly with ethnic diversity and all other diversity areas, a long way to go with our senior managers and leadership. So a big focus on that. I think our other focus that I touched on a little bit this morning was thinking much more now about socio-economic diversity, so thinking about people from different social backgrounds, and how diverse is the BBC in that sense. And certainly in the UK, people from more disadvantaged, working class backgrounds are more likely to be from minority ethnic backgrounds, in terms of people who don't have a great deal of money or economically disadvantaged. That is more often likely to be people who are disabled. So if we cracked socioeconomic diversity, not only would we be reflecting our audiences more than perhaps we do at the moment, we would also be pulling in other diversity areas as well, so reflecting our audiences in other ways. So I think that's one big challenging area. Gender diversity, I think very often in organisations people think gender diversity, not so much of an issue now in the UK. It still is in certain areas, so as I said, in senior management and certain job types. As I mentioned this morning, in particular for us, technology and engineering, so targeted work there. You talked about women returners. That's a focus for us as well. Because that's a point at which we can lose women, and there are women leaving the broadcast media industry more widely once they start a family and don't necessarily come back, and that means we're losing across the industry really fantastic talent. So important to do some work in that area. So I think those are probably the key things that I'm thinking of at the moment. Disability, I mentioned as well, always a concern, always need to keep our foot on the pedal and think about that as well.
All right, thanks. And finally, Rachid, L'Oréal is a global brand and a global company working in very many countries, and of course there is a diversity is within these kind of companies. You don't have to look for diversity; it's there. So what would you say? L'Oréal is always, it's sometimes brought as also an example sometimes.
Or not.
Or not. So tell us more about your journey, the L'Oréal's journey, and what where has it taken you?
Yeah, with pleasure. Just some key figures presenting L'Oréal, because I think everybody in the assembly knows L'Oréal. We do enough marketing on TV and newspaper. L'Oréal is one of the biggest, is the third one after Coca-Cola and Nike announcer in the world. So I don't need to make promotion of our product. We are 66,700 collaborators all around the world. We are operating our activities in 130 countries, sometimes directly, just like in 67 countries. We just opened the subsidiary in Nigeria, and sometimes in joint venture, and sometimes with distributors. And I'm sure we have a great brand portfolio that you don't know. Armani Cosmetic is done by L'Oréal. La Roche-Posay, which is a pharmaceutical brand, is done also by L'Oréal. And the power of L'Oréal is innovation. And one thing to make the journey on diversity very easy on L'Oréal is that we have a global, universal, nice mission, is to take care of all beauties of the world in their infinity diversity. Taking this statement, you have to get into your collaborators, the consumers that you are taking care, from China to Peru, Northern America to South Africa. But it doesn't mean that L'Oréal is the best world for diversity. We try to be a worldwide leader on diversity management, and I will explain you in keywords why. First of all, we are a woman company. We have 63% women in the group worldwide, but we have only 21% company in the executive committee. But if you just go one level downstairs, we have 39% women managing a brand, a country, or sitting on a management committee. Then we have the distribution between manager and non-manager. 60% of the collaborators, 60% are women. 60% of the managers are women, and they represent almost 40% of expatriated women. So we cannot say that a woman, a working woman, a businesswoman at L'Oréal is a static collaborators, okay? And 45% of our brands are managed by women. Just to have some figures to put you a little bit in the atmosphere of L'Oréal. And I wanted to show you our global policy, because L'Oréal started many years ago. In 1971, Eugène Schweller, the founder of L'Oréal, the father of Mrs. Liliane Bettencourt, decided to give 1 month holidays for maternity to all women who are gonna have a baby. So you will have the law and one more offered by the company, and it was in 71, 72, so it started many years ago. Why does it work? It is because we have a global company. First, we have 3 pillars. Human resources, 1. I am the one who is implementing our global policy worldwide. I'm the HRD for all HRD all over the world. I have one mission: to be irreproachable wherever we operate our activity. It's very easy to attack when you are the number one. L'Oréal is the worldwide leader cosmetic. You never attack the second, the third, or the fifth. You attack the first one, always. So my mission is to give strong policies, process, training to all HR community all around the world, from Kenya to Peru to China, is a big country and strategic country for us, to be irreproachable. What does it mean, irreproachable? You're working for L'Oréal, you have the right to hate lesbians and gays. That's your right. But as a company, I am responsible to guarantee to all collaborators that if you do not respect the law, the values, the process, the great place to be, and also the company social responsibility, I have the right myself, to my turn, to take all what the law and the system allow me to tell you that you cannot be a member anymore of L'Oréal. Because many times you listen people say, I love your policy, I love diversity, but I don't like black people, I born like this, you will not change me. You can hear this speech, you can listen, but my mission is to convince them that we can make more business together and that people working together bring social cohesion within the team, and when a team has a lot of social cohesion, it's a regulated team, and a regulated team, it's a more performed team. Okay? That's for the pillar of human resources. We have a marketing pillar, and I brought you this packaging. It's diversity, it's also make our product accessible. You will have the main information here in braille. I give it to you if you want to make it pass by. It's not only in one brand, okay? Blind people can access to our product. Marketing, during many years, we used to listen, if you are not blonde or Claudia Schiffer, you will never be on a L'Oréal advertising. We really did this communication stakeholder and advertiser stakeholder efforts, and now, since many years, you can see black models on L'Oréal advertising. And the third pillar is what we call at L'Oréal the solidarity sourcing. L'Oréal is a company spending 6 billion euro buying materials a year. From a very small producer in Brazil who will send you only for 3,000 euro a cell from a snake that you will use for a very, very expensive cosmetic, from Dell, with the official distributor for our IT at L'Oréal. So we took an adventure with one of my colleagues. She's in charge of the solidarity sourcing with the suppliers. More than 600 suppliers decided to follow our diversity policies, and it has an impact on more 40,000 collaborators, not working for the L'Oréal directly, but for our suppliers, sharing our value and our diversity policy. And then we know our limits. The world is not the same. Managing Pakistan is not the same like managing UK. Even if you can have similarities in immigration or minorities. But we say we have three main pillars, which are gender, socio-origin, ethnic, and disability. If you want to do more, feel free, be my guest. Spain is doing much more, Italy is doing much more, US do a lot on minority, not that much on disability. We press them to do more on disability, and then we took 3 levers. That's why it works, because we decided to build a complete and global strategic diversity policy. Why? Because I'm just going to show you another slide, which is say everything. Everything started in 2004 with the Diversity Charter. Why? Because 2 years before in France, the French government decided to apply the European Directive Against Racism Discrimination of 2000, and suddenly all managers and employees discovered that first they can go to jail, and second that they can pay they can pay a lot of money. And suddenly everybody that discovered that the black guy who is working next to you finally is not that black. Is mixed black, you know, and in 10 years maybe in unconscious bias it will be white for them, you know, if we do our job quite well. So in 2005 it was also a dramatic year for L'Oréal because we have been attacked, and L'Oréal won in first instance, and L'Oréal lost second instance, and it was a partnership with Adecco, and we are still convinced that we had reason, but sometimes it's like that, and I think it was good to have been attacked so strongly worldwide because I had a good lever to say to my managers, if it's happened again, we're going to be irreproachable. So we implemented our policy, what we called on the graphic, the pushed. It was top down, all hand by hand by our CEO, and nobody has to discuss. So everybody said, okay, we're going to try to do it, I'm going to have a look. And suddenly, by training, L'Oréal trained more than 10,000 collaborators in Europe, more than 6,000 in the US, 2,000 in Canada, and now we're deploying in South America and in Asia. With our survey, company survey, Pearls, have you say, we noticed that in 2010 that our diversity policy was accepted, finally. People understood the business model, people understood the legal responsibility, because a lot of people are mixing diversity with ethics, and sometimes they are mixing diversity with solidarity. It's not because you are playing football after a job with Turkish migrants that you are doing diversity. And sometimes they are mixing diversity with charity because they pay or they sponsor a gala and they think that they are doing diversity. So in 2010, we acknowledged that it was not that the whole global policy was accepted, and we decided to go ahead. We charge more the diversity training. It's not an e-learning, it's a one-day full training present in a room with a coach. 15 people, not more, because you need to exchange and to have time, because everybody has a story to tell on diversity. And sometimes it starts with, oh, I spent my holidays in Morocco last year, you know. And in 2012, we are proud to say that our policies are integrated, appropriated, and armed. Why armed? Because this year I implemented 60 indicators in our informatics system, 30 indicators in 6 dimensions in our 65 countries that report with the HR informatic system. So I can pilot, monitor, share, and progress my diversity. If you want to be treated as HRD or as diversity management, you have to be equipped, you have to be armed. When I have the distribution manager coming to the committee, is coming with a stocks list and percentage of rupture, everything. When I have the financial director coming, is coming with my staff mass and my extra cost. And me, when I'm coming talking about diversity, I come with a lot of story. Or example, now I come with one unique report. We published the first human capital report on diversity, 30 indicators in 6 dimensions, from gender, seniority, disability, socio-origin, ethnicity, and now I can share and I can compare. And then I can say to Dubai, it's 0,000,000 because the law allows you to do almost what you want. But as a worldwide leader, if you can have 111 in the next 2 years, it will be great, because we have the ambition to become the worldwide leader also in diversity management, because we think that we have the best matching business model. And everybody has to give its contribution. And that will be my conclusion. When I go to countries or I speak with manager or non-manager, I said, but what is your contribution for L'Oréal to make her a diverse company?
Well, thank you very much. So now I thought we could continue the discussion with the topic of motivation for dealing with diversity. Some of you already mentioned what was your starting point, or what were the issues. What is today for you the motivation for dealing with diversity? we heard that there can be many motivations. Some said that they need skilled workers. There is demographic issues. There is legal issues. There are issues, women, having balanced gender in the management, and all these different things. And as we also heard, there is a great diversity within the companies and organizations. There are very different challenges. So perhaps you would just say, what is the current main challenge for you in diversity? What's the motivation for you for doing it at this moment? Perhaps we start. Yeah, we can do the same, or who wishes to speak then first speaks. But Bruno, you can start.
Yeah, I think it's. I think as Amanda said, it's diversity is a journey. I think it's a never-ending journey. So I think when you start, I think you may believe that it's going to take 2 years, 3 years time, and then once you've achieved your objective, it's done. I think it's not. It's an ongoing process, and it's a never-ending process. I think in terms of motivation, I think there were a few examples given this morning. I do believe that there are concrete results of what diversity can bring your company and your business. I think if you work in an environment where people come to work happily, where there are no issues, you will find out very soon that people are more productive. But obviously, if you look at your sickness statistics, your absence statistics, they will come down. And then, especially when you work in the service industry, I mean, if you have happy people, then you have happy customers. And that's something which is very important. I think there are always challenges. I'm not going to say that everything's easy. There are always challenges. I think if I look at my own company, I have the same problem as what many people said already. For example, on gender, we're very good in terms of workers and employee level. When it comes to management, we have a problem because we have 4 managers in the business, and the 4 of them are male, and it's something which we have set as an objective that we want to open up to more women in our management team. We had lots of things in our diversity plan which we have not been able to achieve, just because, for example, it was very much related to recruitment. Unfortunately, as a result of the economic recession, we've had to downgrade our staff level. So, I mean, we're not in a position whereby we are recruiting. So there's a lot of initiatives we would like to take which we can't take currently. And I think it's also very specific to the business. We're doing very well on disability because we've always had about 10% of our workforce which is working with a disability problem, and I think we're doing well. But it's not because 10% is a high level that we want to stop there. We want to actually expand. And one of the things we're looking at is to work with specialized association in order to identify, are there any other jobs, position that can be opened up to disability. We think this is something which is very important. We have an obligation in Belgium. We are obliged to hire a specific percentage of young people. We think this is something which is good, but we also believe, for example, that opening up jobs to the elderly is also something which we want to achieve. We think this is extremely important. We have a lot of young people in our company, but we believe that it's very important to bring a balance with also more senior people because they have experience, they can bring something. And I think in terms of challenges, I think it's an ongoing process, and I think it's a journey that never stops. I think once you undertake a diversity plan, then you get an award, and then the award is available for 2 years, and then the next step is you do a consolidation plan, which is again over another 2-year period. But I think it's an ongoing process, and I think as far as I see it now, it's something we've undertaken and started, but it's something that will not stop. I think this will go on because I think that makes sense. Just because this is the logic way to this world.
Very good. So Casper, you mentioned that at the moment you don't see that there is a problem with recruiting ethnic people. You see that might be in the future. But what's the motivation then now to deal with this? Just to be prepared, or why to set it as a goal, or why to deal with this? Because it's still, you have to put some resource into it. You have to invest some money.
As I mentioned, I think, and I think Amanda touched upon it also. I mean, gender issues, diversity. I mean, it's part of the same issue. And if you have the same value base, you need the same value base within the organization to deal with all of those. And if you start with gender, you will need to do the same things in the organization, in terms of leadership, in terms of policies to prepare for that. And I mean, from a Finnish point of view, Finland is not that culturally diversified, but is getting much more all the time. So I think what we don't want to lose is the ability of innovation, and I mean, I think a culturally diversified workforce improves innovation in a globalized world, and we've recruited people with Chinese background, people with Russian background, to have language skills, to have cultural skills, to deal with those market areas. What we need to do more, and I think the main challenge in our organization is how to gain more diversified workforce with the restraints of the profession that you typically, I mean, the barriers we've set up is that you need to know Finnish, you need to know Finnish law, to sort of push those borders, to see whether that's inevitable in all functions, and what we haven't experienced yet is that much, at least, is customers pushing us. What's your policy on diversity? But we want to be prepared. We want to be the first law firm in Finland who receives kind of a sourcing policy to be able to answer to that. So what we're going to introduce in the end of this year is kind of a one-page declaration of CSR. So that we go out, every time we open up a new case for a new client, we come with a kind of a declaration, what's our policies in terms of HR, in terms of community relations, in terms of environment and diversity. So,
right, thanks. Amanda, you said that BBC has many drivers why to deal with diversity. You mentioned it at the very start of your presentation earlier. What would you say? What's the main one at the moment? What's the thing that makes the managers at BBC to think about diversity? Is it the legal requirements? Is it the business case, or is it something else?
Well, that's a really interesting question. And I think if you ask different parts of the BBC, they'd probably have slightly different answers. But I would say probably the BBC's overall vision is to be the most creative organisation in the world. So I think the creative drive, the fact that we believe that diversity is a catalyst for creativity in terms of our programme making and the way we deliver our services and our news, I think that really is a really key driver. And coupled with that, the greater ability that diversity brings to be able to be relevant and remain relevant to our audiences. Because if we're not relevant to our audiences and we're not making the best quality creative output, we're not going to survive. So I think that's, if I had to pick one, but equally we have our public sector, our public service broadcaster duties. We're paid for by everyone. We should be accessible for everyone. So it really is emerging, and obviously legislation. But I think if we were talking to the creative parts of the organisation, the programme makers, etc., it would be about the creativity and the relevance to audiences.
Very good, very good. Okay, thanks. What about L'Oréal? Is it? I know that it's diversity is so embedded now in the culture, and you're doing now trying to move forward. So what's the main driver behind it? Is it this is the idea that you want to be world number one in this area, or what's the how do you sell it to your executives, to the CEO of L'Oréal?
It's very easy because we have 1 billion consumers in the world, and our ambition is to win one more in 2020. And then he said, which market gonna provide me new consumers? And then we did studies. We saw that new markets will bring 4,000 a year, 500 a year, and then we'll reach our million potential. You know? And me, I arrived, because I continue to study. I'm a never-ending student, and I'm older than I pretend. I use a L'Oréal product. And then I arrived and I said, 1.1 baby born now in the US is black or mixed black. 1 Brazilian over 2 is categorized as black. And we don't have black, powerful Brazilian women on board. 1 or maybe 2. In 2050, we will be very old, but Africa will have 2 billion people on the continents going from Algiers, which is only 1 hour flying from Paris, to South Africa. And then we studied the flows of migration. So the first thing I did before trying to give lessons to human resources director, it was to understand how the world is changing. And I took daily some, not stupid, but very, very simple example. My sister, she's a nurse working in a hospital, and I said, each time you come home to visit us, you come with gender books. Me, I work since 10 years, and before it was active woman and home care woman. And now we're talking all about gender. 10 years ago, it was the active woman. Executive or not, manager or not, but the woman has to be active. And now when you still go to bring your children to school in Paris or wherever in Europe, over the door it's written boys' school and girls' school, even if the school is mixed now. But they kept on the architecture strong messages. When in France, for example, the school is mixed now, if I'm not wrong, since 26 years. 26, a law decided to mix the school. And the children always ask why it is still written girls' school and boys' school. So with these strong messages, what I try to do is not to build the L'Oréal of today. It has been built by my predecessors and by the pioneers of beauty and people who made a single French organization, the global corporation worldwide. I try to prepare the next 10 years and the next 20 years, because after I will be retired. So that's my mission. I try to make them understand and to understand myself how it's gonna move and the flows of everything. In France, for example, in the anti-discrimination law, we have 18 criteria, and everybody is talking about one more, which is the diploma. Because to get to Sodexo, to Orange, to BNP, now they ask you if you have done Sciences Po or a business school. Or if you have not done one of both, yeah, you have potential, but like others, you know. So 18 criteria already established. My mission is that also that we do not add more criteria in the anti-discrimination law.
Thanks. Meanwhile, do we have questions from the floor now, from the audience? Do you have something that would you like to ask? No, there a question there, Helen.
I'm representing the Estonian LGBT Association, which is an NGO that works with issues related to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people here in Estonia. And I was wondering if you could give some examples of specific measures that you have introduced in your companies that help to provide a safe space at the workplace for gay and lesbian employees and transgender employees, just to get more specific, perhaps, if you have some examples. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have one more. Do you have more questions to pick up? We have one more question there.
I have a comment and a question at the same time. When you speak about ethnic minorities, the ethnic minorities' rights are being recognized very recently in a lot of countries. And these people always feel suppressed. They have always had problem with the majority of the population. But suppose that you give them very good positions in a company or in an institution in a country. And what they do is, since they usually feel very threatened, they like to support one another instead of supporting the person who has the highest talent or highest education for the company, who would be much more useful than the other person from the same ethnic minority. They still prefer the people who are like themselves from a religious point of view, from a sectarian point of view, from a cultural point of view. But don't you think that it is really detrimental for companies and sometimes even for some international organizations? We see this trend. If the person on top of the international organization is from a certain part of the world, from a certain culture, then all the people around him and in very high and important positions are from that culture. This is what you see. And to me, the person who really deserves those positions should get them. Not that the other person from the same ethnic minority or from the same ethnic group is their relative, their friend, their, I don't know, their partner, or their maybe sons, daughters, whatever. But this trend exists all over the world, and it is really very hard to break it. So what do you think can be done about this?
All right, thanks. Do we have a third question, or can we do we have more questions now? No. Okay, so then let's address those two. So first about the safe space for LGBT. Who would like to comment?
Do you want me to answer, because we had that discussion during the lunch?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
No. Recently, I don't know what's happened. I'm traveling all over the world, and particularly outside Europe, but also in Europe. LGBT became the new flagship for conferences, seminars, and a lot of organizations, non-LGBT, critics, company who do not have a LGBT association or organization inside the company. And for example, Orange Telecommunication in France, they have an organization, and they decided to communicate over it. The process is, as long as nobody will come and ask to a company, I mean within the European legal context, we want to establish an NGO, federating, collaborator, LGBT or no, or supporting the LGBT cause. You will never make a call for proposal telling, okay, it will be nice to make a new association. Is there any gay, lesbian? And in between, I know what I'm talking about. I'm gay myself. The companies, when they have the opportunity to receive such a call from a group of collaborators who seems that it is necessary for them to share a space, they will be allocated from the French law, a local in the company. They will have hours dedicated in the time work to work on it. They will out a budget on the activities company, just like for the football club or the other one. And on transgender, I can tell you, L'Oréal has one of his top executives who was a man. And he was Algerian, and she's a woman now. She's the general international manager of Lancôme, and her weight is 6 billion over 20 billion money of what Laurent is doing. So, I mean, you can be a high manager, and assuming you're transgender, and you transgenderity, and we have other people at L'Oréal who did the same. They are working in innovation or in other sector, and when you ask them to come on a conference or to say, you know, sometimes some students organize an after work with that subject, would you like to come? They don't want to come. Yeah. Just like for the LGBT in France, mainly they like to pretend, okay, they are together, we have an organization, but outside it's difficult to differentiate. Don't ask the association of a construction company to do something with the telecom company, with the other one. They are still in-house blocked, because being gay at L'Oréal or being gay at Lafarge, where they are doing cement, or being gay at BBC is not the same story, I think. I don't know if I answered your question.
Anyone else? Safe spaces for LGBT examples of this?
Just to say, I think I might have mentioned this morning, I can't remember actually, that we have various staff diversity networks, and one of those is a LGBT staff forum. It's called BBC Pride, and that's been in place for a number of years, and that's there to provide a safe space and support for LGBT members of staff to get together. But it also works very closely with, for example, my team, the Diversity Centre. So we make sure that they have, along with the other staff diversity forums, a space at a senior level table. So we have a diversity board that's chaired by our Director General, and we invite the chair and the co-chair from the LGBT forum to come and speak to senior managers about their experience or their members' experiences of working at the BBC, to talk about any concerns they might have or things that they think we're doing well. They help us formulate policies relating to LGBT members of staff. So we work very closely with that group. In addition to that, we've more recently, with regard to the T, trans, we've been more recently working with the trans community, particularly in relation to our portrayal, media portrayal of trans people, which generally speaking can be right across the media fairly negative stereotypes. And so we're doing quite a lot of work with an organisation called Transmedia Watch, along with Channel 4, the other public sector broadcaster, to actually have awareness raising sessions. So Transmedia Watch will come into the BBC and into Channel 4 and talk to programme makers, producers, journalists, etc. about what it is to be trans and gender reassignment and undergoing gender reassignment and what that can mean and the experiences that they have. And that has really, really helped raise awareness amongst programme makers, but also more broadly amongst other members of staff, about trans issues, and actually has helped stimulate creativity as well. So we've had some great programmes coming out since that I'm glad to say have been a lot less negatively stereotypical as some might have been previously. So I know that's not quite so much around support, but it's more around raising awareness more broadly amongst our staff.
All right. What about the other question about the ethnic minorities? Or I think we can expand that question to see that how to combat this, that people tend to hire people from their own group. Like they want to hire similar, think that they see only their peers as the potential pool for potential employees. So how do you have you experienced this, or what are your thoughts on this issue? I think it's wider than just ethnic, but yes.
Thank you. If you have your value base and your policies sort of organized in the way of enhancing various forms of diversity, that will also combat this type of behavior. And if you just take a very formalized approach towards enhancing diversity, then that might generate this kind of behavior.
I think robust policies and processes can help, but it is then about, you can have those in place, it's then about how they're actually implemented. And we talked this morning, I think you mentioned as well, about unconscious bias and how that plays out in organisations and in cultures. And the thing is, we will all have unconscious bias, and it's I think the best way to try and deal with that is to training actually is one of the best, good quality training, to get people to understand how it operates on a personal level and on an organisational and societal level. And I think it's useful to have that sort of training, because in a way it takes away the sort of guilt of you are making the wrong decisions. It's about showing people that actually we all do this all the time. You are naturally drawn to people who are like yourselves, and that may then influence the decisions you may make about recruitment or promotion or any other types of decisions in an organisation. So to raise people's awareness and to get them thinking about how they do it and how others do it, can then help them think a little bit more carefully about the decisions they're making.
Just a remark. I don't know if some of you knows the Harvard Implicit Project. This is the methodology developed by 20 researchers. And when we are talking generally on unconscious bias, we are making reference of this methodology, which is not the only one, but the major one. And you can make for free a test. You just put on Google Harvard Implicit Project, and you will have a vision of your own unconscious bias. Yeah, it's quite interesting to do. Me, I trained some manager of L'Oréal, and I had the chance to do it myself. And I'm coming from North Africa. My both parents are from Algerian, and I have an unconscious bias with Northern African people. When I saw them, for me, they are too slowly. They are too slowly. Automatically, my brain set up to, it's gonna take time, you know? Yeah. And for other people, they have the same result when they see or meet black people. But it's not only minorities and colors, it's also about the physical appearance. You have people, they cannot collaborate very, very effective if the people in front are not well dressed. Yeah, so they don't have to work in London. No, I'm sorry, I'm joking. Yeah, I love London for this. I can go with my pair of jeans and my sneakers to the subsidiary, you know. And when I go to Belgium, I need to go with a suit. Yeah? And when I go to London, I go with a pair of jeans and sneakers and a jacket like this. And everybody say, "Wow, our HRD diversity is arriving." They don't say, "a suit is arriving," yes. You know. Yeah? Yeah? So just try it for if you want. It's quite interesting to do it.
I think we have also experienced this ourselves when I was working with or hiring people. Then you tend to use it also about the communication channels that you use, and sometimes you use the channels that you know, and you tend to not reach those people who you might want to reach. So it's just one note. Right. What about the You all mentioned already many tools and methods that you use for diversity and different things. Perhaps you can, you can perhaps highlight some of the things that you think might be useful for a starting up company in Estonia who would like to right now here's all this interesting conference and all the interesting ideas about diversity, and what would be your suggestion? How to get started? Where to get started? What's the first thing that should be done? How to approach the issue? Please.
Yeah. I think if you have the opportunity to have diversity consultant in Estonia, I would strongly recommend that you make use as much as you can, because they can be very useful in your approach of your approach to diversity. I think it's also extremely important to network. We have found that it was extremely useful to be in touch with other businesses, other companies, to see what they've done in terms of diversity. It's very important to share best practice, to share success, and to learn from other people. So, I mean, don't hesitate to sort of walk out of your own comfort zone to find out what others have done, and also to promote what you've done in your own company. But I think it's extremely important to have guidance from the diversity consultants. That's something which is can prove to be very useful, I think.
We have also, we have now, just to add on, that we have been training a number of people who are also among the audience to work as a diversity consultant. Of course, the training should continue. It's just very little bit because there's not many in Estonia at the moment, but at least. What about the others? Can you highlight some good tools and methods that you yourself have found most effective for this kind of starting up phase? Could be useful. What do you think?
At L'Oréal, it's we have a methodology, but we have some secret change agent. You have to detect a champion. Okay, I think we had a strong demonstration this afternoon with Magnus. You have to detect somebody in your company who has the legitimacy, and if he's not working in HR, it's much better. It's gonna help. So detect somebody that times to times will help you to organize a breakfast with an activity of a presentation, but to detect a champion in your organization is important. We frame problems through facts, because if you don't do this, people do not understand, and make it simple to learn. You don't take your collaborators to make a PhD on anti-discrimination and diversity, okay? You take them to understand how the world and how the country and how the city and how the company is running, and make the problem concrete and choose one to start. Don't say, I'm going to do LGBT, disability, gender, collaborators for more than 60 years, that they need to be retired. Don't try to do everything at the same time. And L'Oréal, we are organized with this. We have in almost each country a diversity champion. We have in 40 countries a diversity committee. And we have a diversity observatory, which is not the same. Diversity committee is taking decision, orientation, and the diversity observatory is a group of collaborators, managers or not, opening the doors of L'Oréal, showing what we do, and going outside also to pick up ideas or things like that. I used to be HRD, for example. I will give you a concrete example. HRD in operation, managing a big plant, and I had 2 kilometers far away from my plant, disability center, center for packaging with people with disability, and we never subcontracted with them. But basically, they were almost doing the same job as the collaborators, as was manager, and then we started to switch collaborators. And when I had people with long sickness, before to come with an adapted position and tools, ergonomic tools. We used to make job shadowing with them, and that's how people put less drama when an accident happened in a plant. Even that L'Oréal is fighting against accident, our ambition is zero accident in any plant, but the risk zero never exists. But when you put less drama, when it happens, people can understand that they can continue to have a work life after this. So sharing, as you said, is very, very, very important.
Any other tips or hints to a starting up, how to start up or where to approach?
I think it's also important to make sure that, I mean, it has to do a lot with leadership and management, but it's also making sure that your workforce, your employees fully support the process. So you really need to revisit your communication style, your information process, and really make sure that it's just not going to happen because you at the top want diversity to be happening. It's just, you know, to make sure that everybody is in the driving seat, and that's something which is absolutely key to the success.
I think sort of echoing that in a sense, what I was going to say is about articulating a really, really strong business case and making sure that everybody across the organisation understands that, is that when you're setting the diversity objectives that you've decided on that are going to be your key areas of focus, they align to the business objectives. And that applies to a very big organisation, but smaller ones as well, obviously. So then people will want to work towards those naturally anyway, and you're going to be more likely to take people with you.
Very good. Now, questions, more questions. We have some fantastic people here too. There will probably not be in Estonia together at least very soon. So please ask.
First of all, thank you for your very interesting presentations and remarks. I have a question to almost everybody, but some of you already mentioned this topic. Topic is about talking to NGOs, talking to these organizations who represent all those, let's call them minorities. Sometimes minorities can be majorities, etc. But and I heard that some of you already have some good contacts, and whenever you have issues, problems, you turn to them. But I'm wondering, is this some sort of, do you have like regular basis to communicate? Do you have some sort of roundtables, or is it like ad hoc based on, you know, your current issue, or how does it look like? Thank you.
Right. Let's take that. Let's answer that. That was one of the things that I also had written down. That might be a topic to how do you relate or work with the organizations that represent, for example, disabled persons or LGBT persons or people with different ethnic or racial background. Do you do that, or what is the format?
I think in Belgium, I think we are very happy because we are regularly invited, and all the companies who are basically involved in diversity projects get the opportunity to be involved by the Brussels region, whereby there's always a theme, and it's a forum basically where there's going to be a subject discussed, and then there's going to be a lunch, and then there's going to be opportunities for networking, and it's going to be one day disability, it's going to be one day ethnic minorities, and that's a very good opportunity to sort of get in touch with these organizations, but also to be in touch with other companies and other businesses whereby you can share experiences. But other than that, I mean, as far as we are concerned, we're not establishing contacts, or we are only contacting organizations if we have a specific requirement which we want to investigate. But other than that, I think it's also very important that the national diversity organization organize those kinds of forums for people to meet and sort of move forward.
Right. Any other examples of working with NGOs?
I guess I'm just thinking about it really, I guess we tend to work with various, those sorts of organisations and representative bodies when we are working on a particular area or do have a specific issue. But then I'm thinking there are also other organisations in the UK that particularly employers support organisations. There's one called Race for Opportunity, for example, and then there's Stonewall, which represents LGBT issues. And we work with them pretty well. We're in touch with them pretty well all the time because of our programme of work. So there are times when we'll bring a number of them together for a sort of consultative session, perhaps, if we're doing a very particular piece of work. So it kind of varies. I guess it's mainly issues-led, but there are some that we work with and are in touch with quite regularly.
And for L'Oréal, yes, we are member of a lot of boards, but I'm so happy because it's not HRD. Sometimes when we have a champion with salespersons is representing L'Oréal in a board, and at many important boards we do not send my boss, the vice president, or myself. We are quite committed that people implementing action go until the end of the representation. Just to mention something very, very particular, the last 2 years, as you may know, a big crisis was impacting governments in Europe. And what happened, and particularly in France, where a lot of NGOs' budget have been cut dramatically, the first reaction of the NGOs was to call the companies to say, if I do not get some sponsors or some subsidies, I will have to close my NGO, and I'm working since 20 years, or I'm gonna have to reduce free headcount, so I will stop this project. And unfortunately, L'Oréal has a rich company image because we are winning money since 102 years, and we had to face in 2011 and 2012 a huge amount of solicitation of NGOs to work with them, but also for subsidies. And it's what I said this afternoon, to not be confused between what is doing diversity, a partnership, doing charity, because you're going to help an organization with difficulty and you are sensibilized to the cause that they are defending, or doing solidarity. Okay? In a big company, you have structure for everything. When I can't. At the beginning, it was difficult for me because I'm passionate and I love my job to say, no, I can't. But now I say, no, but I give you the telephone number of the head of the foundation and go to see the L'Oréal Foundation, and maybe they will help you. But the biggest NGO that I'm part is the ENAR network, which is the European Network Against Racism, and more than 120 European NGOs in the 27 countries are member of the network, fighting against discrimination and racism.
Good. I think we have a time for one final question from the floor. Do we have someone who has something?
I have one more comment, if you don't mind.
Yes. No, we don't mind.
Thank you. I think this panel has been very interesting for all of us. I would like to thank each and all of the speakers. I think the points that they made, they were very good. But I would also like to mention something else that comes to my mind. Are all the women and all the societies ready to have this gender equality in companies, in international, national organizations, in the governments? Because I read a lot about women's issues, and even once an American sociologist, a lady sociologist, said, just voice an opinion in public and find out what the opposite sex is. Meaning there would be too many reactions from the male groups, or I don't know, from the male employees of a company, of an institution. What do you think can be done to overcome this kind of prejudice which really exists in a lot of societies? Because Many times, women who hold good positions in governments or in companies are labeled as masculine. They are sometimes labeled as selfish because they don't have enough time for their children, for their families. Some of them don't even get married, and it's not always because they are bisexual, homosexual, or hate men, but just simply don't find the time because so much is expected of them. And also, I think especially the male employers expect a lot more than a lot more from the female employers than the male ones. They are highly critical of any small mistake they make, of anything even concerning their private lives, of the way they dress, so on and so forth. So I'm not really very sure that the diversity can succeed in most of the societies of the world. We are not exactly ready for that, especially as far as the gender equality is concerned. Maybe you would like to comment on that.
I think I agree. I think it's an important question, but I think we can only look at our own level. And I think if you look at the level of your company, I mean, this is what counts. Before we undertook the road to diversity, we were having problems. We were having, for example, male not accepting to be working under the authority of women. We were having problems by people not willing to be talking to other people because they were not the same language or they were not from the same culture. We had all these problems, and these problems were very acute. And I can give you the assurance that as soon as we undertook the project of diversity, as soon as we invested in people training, in people development on diversity, all these problems have disappeared. And I think we've been now, a few years after we started the process, I mean, the problems like the ones you've mentioned, which we used to have, we no longer have. And I think it's important, do what you have to do at your own level, and then, try to promote it, and try to make, your achievement an example for other people, and then that's how it will spread out. And hopefully someday people will be more aware, and then things will be, the world will improve. But I think it can only improve with, what we try, with our efforts. So.
Yes, I think consistent implementation of policies and at least in our organization, kind of the support from the top management to that it's a very positive thing if you try to combine and achieve a sound work-life balance. And we don't only strive that for female, but also for men. That's what I'm working with myself. I have three small kids, and I'm sort of trying to get more time to spend with them in the pressures of having to serve my clients well. But what we're experiencing in our law firm is the Y generation. I mean, which has totally different expectations of work-life balance than what we've been used to, and that doesn't only go for. I mean, it's not maybe subject to gender that much. So and tackling with that with a totally different view on work and work-life balance has also led us to create a kind of an environment which also eases up the work-life balance for women. I mean, 10 years ago in our office, it would have been a very strange thing what my associates do, that if there's not any immediate work, they go home at 4 or go to the gym. 10 years ago, you would have sat there until 8 o'clock, but that was before you could read your email at home.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think what you're describing is a sort of wider societal issue, and I guess there are a number of different spheres where that plays out and can we hope be tackled, and the workplace is just one of those. And obviously we have got legislation, varying legislation in different countries, of course, that extends to some of those spheres, the workplace, but not so, for example, to the home, let's say. It's about, it's thinking about those different spheres, whether it's the home, whether it's in schools and through educational systems, whether it's in the workplace, where we have to just try and achieve change and take as many people with us, and I guess lead by example. But I understand your point, but I think we have to keep going at it, and through the workplace, particularly if we've got legislation behind us to support that, it's one of the best places, I think, to try and achieve that broader change.
Just to conclude on your question, a woman famous in France said, until 38 years old, you are a very high potential in the company, and when you are 40, you are a senior. So you have 2 years to get married, to make a child, and to be promoted as senior executive. And taking this joke into consideration, you have the men on the board or on the executive committee. Usually they used to leave at 56, 57. Now at 64 years old, they are still hanging the chair. That's also a problem in the competition, because human resourcely talking, it remains a competition of talent. If we are talking about gender equality, basically now women are coming out from the same school, okay? They're starting with the same salary, they accede into the company, they have access into the company at the same training, and then you have the results. So I'm not sure we're gonna win that war in the next 10 years, because many other topics took more than 70 years. So it's now 20 years, almost 20 years that we are seriously talking about gender. Put in parallel immigration. In the Portuguese and Spanish, Italian people who arrived in 1910, 12, the grandson, which were my colleagues at school, called Carlos Lopez, they were considered like French people, okay? My parents arrived in 1963, after the Algerian independence war. If you took the previous model for Italian, Portuguese, and Spanish, it took 70 years. We are almost at the middle. So I believe that the new technology, we're gonna win 10 or 15 years, but it's still not the case. It's still not the case. I remain immigrant person for French people. So for gender, I think it will take a little bit more time.
I think that's the concluding thought here, that this is a journey, and it's going to be a long journey that will take different avenues, different paths and roads to the future. I want to thank all of you. Thank you to Bruno Jolly, to Casper Herler, Amanda Rice, and Rachid Bensahnoune. Thank you very much for this very interesting discussion, and thank you to all of you also who were listening. So thanks to